What I need, I'm getting.
Good.
God's been very good. Listen to me.
Yeah, you sound great.
And I can sing again. It doesn't have the power,
but
I can carry a tune without going off.
Great. Oh, that's
an amazing thing. Amazing. I never thought that would happen.
That's great. I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Well, 3 cheers. Yay, Judith. Excellent. Great. So, so for those who are new to the table, welcome. We ask people to keep their mics muted until it's their turn. We're also doing a live stream with my Mr. Sci-Fi YouTube channel. So, so that's the news. So, and David, tonight, are you doing the Mr. Sci-Fi stuff? Oh, I can't.
So. Sorry, I noticed Adam wasn't there.
Yeah, no, he's not there. So I don't know if we have any questions yet, but I don't think we do.
Well, why don't you move on a bit and I'll get collected here.
Okay, good. It's good. It's always good to collect yourself if you're going to want the, you know, I mean, you're mint in the box, as I understand it. So, okay, great. So, Galinda, why don't we take you since you're on my screen? Go for it. And I like the Rod Serling night gallery behind you.
I wanted to make a point to get a new one each week. I decided that having the same one all the time, and I had this cool one pulled up where he's next to a TV screen, and when I pulled up the Mr. Sci-Fi channel, it's the one you had on screen from 2 months ago. And I'm like, I cannot show up in the same dress Mark wore. So I had it up, and I'm in love with this one. I may keep it for a while.
Yeah,
it's a really, really sweet scenery there.
Yeah,
I like it. It's you know, right now it's the same old crazy, helping the roommates get boxed up to move out, and I'm moving out about 2 to 3 weeks after they do. So, for me, I'm kind of relaxed that everything else is around me is in chaos. I have been formulating my story, and anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Galinda. I'm a fan who got an upgrade to my subscription, and now I'm inspired, and I'm working on a book, a story, and a YouTube series. So
great.
Maybe more than I can do, but we'll see how it works. I've been trying to formulate, how do I express to people my life philosophy, my view of the universe. And one of the biggest concepts is that I'm trying to create a world for my story that didn't develop currency. That just everybody is right. The whole culture is based on that we're all together on the same planet, and if you break it down and put 12 people on a ship in space, we all understand we have to work together. Well, you got billions of people fueled by a culture of division, and economic wars and all that. It's harder to get people into that thinking. I thought the most valuable thing for me during this pandemic has been the people I talk to and the stories we share and those moments of how, caring about each other. And so that's the direction I'm going, is that the most important thing in the culture is the communication and the stories.
Cool.
Rather than a unit of currency being the most important thing in our culture, which is what we have, and I'm just like, it's the article that describes this is going to be called something like, why I'm a socialist and what it means to me.
Cool.
Great.
It's great.
But it's kind of exciting when these ideas come forward in my head, and then I'll come up and I'll realize when I'm telling a story somebody's already told before.
Oh, that's great. Oh, and hang on 1 second, Judith. If you could mute your mic, it's unmuted. Great.
It's unmuted?
Yeah, we can hear you.
That's a terrible thing.
Yeah. There you go.
Thanks.
Okay. So, anything else, Galinda? Anything else you need?
No, I don't have any current needs right now.
Great.
Pretty good. I said really just the edification of what happens here right now is like the essence of what I'm thinking. This is where, some of our best contributions to our culture are. In getting together and communicating and shoring each other up even, and helping each other out where we can. And there's so much value to that.
That's
it,
great.
It means so much more to me than I can go outside. There's 6 plants right out this door I can go pick and I know I can eat it. I will not starve to death without money on this planet, at least at this point in time.
Good.
Good. But I would have withered away without the communication, without this glorious thing that we have that we can do here.
Yeah, it's really great. Well, thank you for that. Yay, features Galinda. Hey, Galinda. So, Dave, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us how great you are on all that stuff.
Well, this will be a short story. Hi, everyone. Let me hit save here. I'm Dave Edison. I'm an editor. I'm working on Space Command. I'm working on the credit sequence during the table. So if you on Zoom see me looking off screen, that's what I'm doing. And we're moving forward, trying to get the first 2 hours of Space Command done and delivered as a feature. And we'll move on. We've already shot some of the second 2 hours, and we'll be doing more of that come the new year. And here's something. I actually got us something. 30 years ago, I was involved in a project that made it to Laserdisc and made it to VHS, but never made it to DVD. And a company called Vinegar Syndrome, which is a great name. If you don't know what Vinegar Syndrome is, Google it. They find these old films that have a cult following or some other kind of popularity, usually low-budget films like this one, which was about a $500,000 picture that I am credited as co-writing, and I have a small supporting role in it. But it's called Steel and Lace, and this company has finally restored it and issued it on Blu-ray.
Yay!
So if you like horror, science fiction with just a little bit of well-placed gore,
yes,
and then look into Steel and Lace.
Yes,
and maybe you get a kick out of it. It stars David Norton of American Werewolf in London, and Bruce Davison, who I first heard about as Willard, the original Willard in the early 70s. And he's been in many things, including X-Men and Oscar nominee for a Longtime Companion around the same time this film came out. And let's see, who's in it? David L. Lander, the late comic actor who, very funny guy, nice fellow, played Squiggy on Laverne and Shirley. That's his big claim to fame. He has a few great scenes in this. And even table member Hank Garrett, who dates back to, he was the insane, murderous mailman in 3 Days of the Condor. And he was in Car 54, Where Are You? So he's been around a while. And he's still with us. And funny guy, great guy. He's in this film. And Stacey Haddock from the old Superboy series, and a lot of good people, and me. I have a small role in it as well.
Yes.
And so check it out there.
That's
Other
great.
than that, I'll just be working on the credits here.
Great.
If you need anything, I'll be here.
Great. And Dave, before I forget, remember to ask me about the shot of the ship at the Ice Comet in 101. Okay. We might want to make
the ship at the Ice Comet in 101.
Yeah. Because we have to do something there. So, okay, cool. But thanks for everything, Dave. Anything else you need?
Not that I know of, but I'll ask if I figure it out.
Okay, yay! 3 cheers, Dave. So, Mr. Bartlett, do we have any Mr. Sci-Fi questions yet? Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I'm muted.
Yeah.
No, not yet. I will be with you in a minute.
Okay.
Not
Okay, great.
Okay.
Terrific. What, darling? What?
Who's just to the side of Judith?
Who's to the side of Judith? Delton Davis, are you there? If you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you're up to and what you need.
Awesome. My name is Delton, and basically, I educator, writer, and working on creating an animated TV series for kids.
Great.
Wow,
I'm
okay.
also working on a series of children's books as well to go along with it. And also a musician. And I'm just grateful that I went to the convention and sat in Mark's class. I mean, I don't know if they call it a class or workshop, but it was really great.
Yeah.
And it's just cool to just be around other creatives, just to continue to be inspired and just gain from really great knowledge and everything.
Great. Now, is there anything you need? Any questions you have, or any advice you'd like, or anything you need?
So far, no. So far, I just just I'm sure it'll come about in the process.
Okay, great. Well, Delton, one thing I'll mention to all of those who are new tonight is that once you come to one meeting in person, which you're doing right now via Zoom, you can then talk to David Bartlett, and he will connect you up with a table email where you can send out one email and it'll go out to all several thousand members of the table. And you can also get their email requests and so forth. Very powerful tool, as we have, members all around the world. So great. Well, welcome, Delton. Yay! 3 cheers. Excellent. So David, is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question yet?
There is. Bruce Morris says.
Hello, Bruce.
Please talk about the Foundation TV series and any differences changed from the book.
Yes, I actually did a Mr. Sci-Fi video on that recently, which you can find if you just search the Mr. Sci-Fi, search thing. But there are a lot of differences. The Emperor, who's a clone of himself, and all that stuff, that's not in the books. Harry Seldon being, having his demise the way he has it isn't in the book. They're basically trying to create continuing characters in a series that didn't have continuing characters because it takes place over thousands of years. So it's very, very different. But the level of production on that show is amazing. It looks like a very expensive feature. So so that's sort of the basics of it. So let's see. So next on my screen is Nelson. If you want to introduce yourself and say what you're up to and what you need, that'd be great. Oh, are you there, Nelson? Oh, can you hear us? Oh, Nelson, are you there? I don't know if you can hear us yet. Okay, well, we'll come back to Nelson in a moment. So, Angie, do you want to take your turn? Please, go for it.
Hi, my name is Angie.
Yay.
I am from Boston area.
Yes.
I've been focusing primarily on voice acting right now.
Mhm.
So I've done a lot of stage plays. Yeah.
Great.
I don't know.
Well, here's Angie was in the Greenlighting Yourself panel at LA Comic-Con, and she is a very talented actress, and she's looking to work up the courage to leave Boston where there's no opportunity, and it's kind of dead as Napoleon, and wants to come out to LA and have a support group of people who will make sure that she's has a wonderful life for the rest of her life. So I think that about sums it up, right? And
I mean, on the nose.
yes. So this is a small percentage of the table members. There's, as I said, thousands of them. David Bartlett can help you get on the table email. And it's very easy to reach out to table members and say, I'm looking for a place to stay. I'm looking for, anything you need, basically. I mean, the whole point of the table is to give each other a community, a supportive community here in Hollywood, and by extension, anywhere anyone is shooting anything. And so there are a lot of people who have rooms for rent. There's a lot of people who have, guest houses or whatever. So yes, so there's
quite a few of the performers get a lot of money from voiceovers. So
yes,
you put out the word and say advice about voiceovers. A
You'll-
lot of people
you'll get that.
do get paid for voiceovers.
yeah, and David can certainly connect you up with David Bartlett. He's the fella up there, and waving his hand. He can connect you up with the table email, and again, as I mentioned at the panel or the monologue, that you just have to come to one table meeting in person, and this qualifies, and then you can use all the facilities of the table forever, and you can come every week or every never. And eventually we'll be having meetings at a restaurant in the Valley. But yeah, so the table email is very, very powerful. And so do you have other questions, other things you'd like to know? It's quite wonderful out here. It's like paradise.
I'm still trying to digest everything from the Greenlighting Yourself. I actually just transcribed all of my notes from that.
Wow.
And I've shared it with all of my friends. I was like, hey, listen, this was so
Well, in a few months, the book will be out, and that has a lot more than I was able to talk about in that short time. So I think that'll also be very useful to you. I mean, the main thing to know is, and I've said this often, there are two Hollywoods. There's the Hollywood of awful people, and everything you've ever heard about Hollywood is true in the negative. There are the Harvey Weinsteins of this world, but there's also the good Hollywood of people who love what they're doing. They stand by their word. They go home to their families. They're not creeps. They're working from passion. They're creating work that matters. And that's the Hollywood, you want to be part of. And so that's why we created this community. So again, people would be would feel not isolated. And but so just to let you know. And but again, once you get out here, there are enormous possibilities. For one thing, there's a difference between Boston and LA, which is if you go to a movie in Boston, it's just the movie. Like, for instance, if you saw Nightmare Alley, the new Guillermo del Toro film in Boston, you just see the movie. If you see it here, there's a number of events where he's appearing with the movie. So you could ask him questions. You might even meet him, and then he could become your friend, and and then you could live in his guest house. It'd be very nice. And but again, so there's enormous possibilities here. So any other questions? Anything else you need?
I'm just here to kind of see the, I don't want to say vibe, but the environment.
Sure. Well, this is the other half. She's my wife, Elaine. She writes and directs and produces with me. She's smarter and better than me in every way. So
yes, that's why the dog is sitting on my lap.
Yes. So if you hear her at any point tonight disagree with me, she's right. Okay. So, which is the secret of a happy marriage, by the way. And we've been together for 45 years and married for 44. So, and life is good. And she lets me collect spacesuits, as you can see. So, but great. But I'm really glad that you're here. I'm really rooting for you. And anything that scares you, remember, all you need to do is tell people what you need and make sure that you get it. That's it. It's and like a guest room, you can get a guest room out here for like 700 a month, something like that. Or there's a lot of possibilities. It's not going to cost you like 3,000 or 4,000 a month in rent. That's that's again where
but it
could, but yeah, but on the other hand, there are a lot of older members of the table who maybe they're looking to rent out a room in their house or whatever, and that can be great because they might be actors or writers or whatever, so and they want someone reliable and not insane. So so there's that. So great. So anything else for now?
No, I'm
great. Well, 3 cheers. Welcome. Yay. Excellent. So Dave,
try again.
Yes, but we're doing
Okay,
Mr.
sure.
Stuff, I think. So we're doing, as I mentioned earlier, we're doing a simulcast with my Mr. Sci-Fi YouTube channel. So David, is there a question on Mr. Sci-Fi?
Yeah, a couple things. There's one other thing here that's fun. Alex Smith is watching from Australia.
Wow. That's great. So he's upside down. That's terrific. Good. So, and what else?
Here. Galinda says, it's an interesting challenge to create a world that evolved without ever developing currency and maintain consistency, especially since I'm a product of crony capitalism and public television. Not really a question. You just might want to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anytime you're dealing with science fiction in the future, you have to figure out what the currency, the mode of currency is. In Star Trek, of course, they had credits, and then they had latinum and so forth, gold pressed latinum. Obviously, people are going to want to be able to buy and sell stuff and not have to trade goats or whatever to do it. So, yeah, it's always something that we're playing with and dealing with. So let's see. So Nelson, let's see, is Nelson still here? Nelson, oh, Nedden. Hi, Nedden. So it's your turn. Why don't you take your turn, please?
Okay. Thanks. Thank you guys for having me. I'm really excited to be here. So I was at Mark's at the panel
Yes.
at LA Comic Con. Essentially, I've really always loved storytelling in general, and the means for me that seemed the most realistic was writing. So I really got into writing. I mean, right now I work full time in emergency management, middle management, really.
Great.
Which means I'm not really good at anything but taking orders from the big boss and giving it out to everyone else. But basically, I've been writing a lot, and I really wanted to challenge myself recently. And this past year, I wanted to write a book, and I ended up writing 2.
Wow.
So I finished Yeah, the 2 books, 200,000 words in total. And I just, after that, I've been, working in editing, and I'm just kind of figuring out, what's next. How do I, it's such a dense, industry, and I wanted to sort of meet more people who were on the inside who maybe, had more, I guess advice and where to go. I mean, so I've got 2 books now who are, very, very rough draft, but I think, they are good. I think there's a lot there, and I do think their stories are worth telling. And so I'm just, looking for, I guess, just to learn from people, hear other people, and
what genre are the novels?
They're horror, fantasy.
Great.
So they're kind of fun. I generally describe them to people as, if you like something like Stranger Things, it's like Stranger Things, but more of a fantasy element than a science fiction.
Right. So are you based here in LA, or where are you based?
I live in Long Beach, yeah. So I'm real close to LA.
Oh, great. Because there's a terrific horror bookstore called Dark Delicacies. It's in the Valley. And if you just went there and talked to Del, who's the owner, he could really hip you to the current state of horror, what's being published, who's publishing it, all that stuff. I would strongly urge you to go to the World Fantasy Convention, or the World Science Fiction Convention, either one of those, because that's where the book editors are, and that could get you a book sale for one thing. And what do you want to have happen? Like if everything went well, what would occur?
Well, I mean, so one is possibly turning it into a book. The other idea and the thought I've kind of pushed around a lot was maybe even turning it into even like a not like a radio drama, but almost like a podcast, like a radio play.
Sure.
That's sort of back to like hiring actors, getting sound effects, getting really good sound design music.
There's in the table there, as I said, thousands of members, and a lot of actors love radio drama. And so if you were going to put on a radio, version of your work, you could probably get them to just, I mean, you may not have to pay them. You may have, or you might be able to pay them a very sort of like a little honorary sum or whatever, or just give them, cocktail wieners on toothpicks or whatever. But and also there's a lot of sound designers and sound guys. Earl, who's a sound guy, he may be coming on a little later, but absolutely, and that's where the table email can be hugely useful. Do you have a favorite horror/fantasy writer?
Oh, I'm really excited about. I mean, he's only put out 2 books so far, but I really like C. Robert Cargill. And he did. He worked on Sinister, did the screenplay for that, and a couple other movies. I mean, there's the obvious of Stephen King. Been reading him since forever. I also like Charles Saunders a whole lot. Charles, he passed not too long ago, but he was a fantasy writer, and I really, really enjoy his books.
That's cool.
Now, you said that you felt that they were kind of rough still. They weren't quite where you wanted them to be, your books?
Yeah. So they are. I mean, I literally finished them like, months ago. I started on them and I wrote them in about 6 months. And I was... so I mean, they are. I've been working on editing the past 6 months following that. So I am still working through them, but they are. Yeah, I'm polishing them up right now.
Oh, great! Now we've always found. I don't know what's available to you in your educational system. When we started, we found that UCLA
Extension
UCLA Extension
has great classes.
It has great classes because they had not just teachers who never sold, right? But they had professionals there who would look over your material and give you their opinion. But at least they were working professionals, and it's always good to have somebody to bounce it off who has some marketing experience. So we would look at UCLA and we'd see the people, if there were any particular writers that we liked, because there are a lot of writers you don't like who are teaching, right? Then we usually enrolled in more than one class, because there's some writers who actually love to teach, and there's some writers who just love to boast, right? And they're not going to be very safe or helpful to you. But having some form of feedback is extremely helpful, because some things that you don't think you're getting across, you're really getting across, at least in my experience. And some things that I think are very clear, I can suddenly see when I get feedback that they're not that clear. It's too much to do with my individual experience. So once you feel you've edited well, the thing is to get either friends whose taste you trust, who wouldn't be competitive, or to look into the extension, because with extension, they have a lot online now.
Yeah.
And if you find somebody whose work you like, and you take the first class, and they don't give you a kind of a yucky vibe. I mean, they may be good writers, but terrible people.
Mhm.
If they give you a vibe of feeling safe, then that can, at least for us in the beginning, it was really helpful.
Mm-hmm. So, and then also another thing is the Clarion Writers Workshop, which I think I mentioned at my little ramble at the convention, because that really is how people get careers. I mean, you know, it's if you just look up Clarion Writers Workshop, you'll find it, and it's not insanely expensive, and it's hugely useful. I mean, I have a career thanks to Clarion, and it's quite wonderful. And I mean, because it's great, because, you know, a life as a writer is a dream come true, whereas, you know, most people live sad little lives. We're drifting just through the fog of despair, and then, you know, one day they wake up dead, and that's pretty much it. So you know, so whereas you know, when you're a writer, every day you wake up with a song in your heart. The bank account, you can't spend money fast enough because it comes in so quick, and it's just really sweet. So you know, now some other writers may disagree with that generalization, but, you know, I'm going to stick with it. So
and if you know what sometimes in science fiction sagas happens to middle management, yes.
Mm. Middle management people, what happens? They die.
No, they were shot off into space.
They're shot off into space. Oh yeah, that's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's great. It's a great joke. Yes, telephone sanitizers, middle management. Yeah, they're shot off into space. It's very funny. But now also one thing that's great about going, there also is an organization of horror writers, and they do have a convention. You could look that up on Google. But fantasy and science fiction is better just because you get a wider range of editors, writers, book agents, etc. And
there's a lot of overlap anyway.
And the great part is that you can meet people very easily at those conventions. They're very friendly. I mean, the professionals, they don't look down their nose at the fans. They'll hang out with you. You treat them to a drink and you own them. I mean, basically, it's you know, it's, I mean, and it's the top writers. I mean, for instance, George R.R. Martin goes to the World Science Fiction Convention every year, and he's hanging out with people. He's not, you know, he doesn't have security tasing people, you know, so it's really pretty cool. So any other questions?
You know, you've given me a lot to research, so I'm going to look into those things and definitely check those out. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. 3 cheers. Welcome. Yay. So David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
We got him coming in.
Great.
So first of all, Carlos Andre Villa Abril says, greetings from Buenos Aires.
Whoa.
Argentina.
Greetings.
Great.
Lovely.
Now we've got Fit to Be Read says, what is the biggest or most interesting sci-fi event, news, or happening in 2022 that you are looking forward to?
Well, releasing Space Command, the first 2 hours of Space Command, shooting more of it, having Greenlighting Yourself come out. I mean, all of that stuff is, you know, this is going to be a big year for us guys. You know, so I would, you know, but I mean, there's always wonderful stuff. I mean, you know, let's see, what am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to Roland Emmerich's movie with Halle Berry where the moon collides with the earth. That, if that is halfway decent, I'm there. You know, it's you know, it's, you know, there's like good Roland Emmerich, like Independence Day, and then there's like bad Roland Emmerich, like Geostorm, you know, and I'm hoping it's going to be more toward the Independence Day. It doesn't have to be all the way to Independence Day, but even if it's the one where the earth freezes, or, you know, I mean, there's, you know, that'd be fine. I could settle for that. So we'll see if it lives up to the hype. And by the way, to let everyone know, the 6th season of the Expanse just debuted on Amazon Prime, the first episode. So if you've been waiting for the 6th and final episode, go check it out. And and also they just published the last novel in the Expanse series of novels, the 9th one. So it's pretty amazing, both in the books and in the TV show. So let's see. So next on my screen, let me check it out. David, did you want to take your turn while we're at it?
Sure.
Great.
So I'm David Bartlett. I am a filmmaker, a teacher, and a human rights activist, and a producer on Space Command.
Yay!
Many activities happening in Space Command, including the imminent release of something on Christmas.
Yes.
We haven't quite defined that yet. We are doing the great climactic sequence of the full 2 hours right now.
Mhm.
Elaine and I
Yay.
mapped out a great deal of it from work that Mark and Dave and Elaine did before.
Mhm.
And now it's like tweaking and adjusting, and I'm making a new budget for an even more spectacular climax. Elaine did such a great job with the Titan sequence reshoot.
Yes.
That's an entirely different sequence. And it's kind of a bit of a climax for hour one.
Yes.
So that was nice too, really fun.
Mm.
And we're just working away.
Great.
So that's what that is. Now, my background is that I made my first film when I was 10 years old because I saw the Battleship Potemkin and Lon Chaney's Phantom of the Opera on TV and said, I want to do that. So last weekend I was at a memorial service for my father. He died about a month and a half ago. So we got over it to that point, but then we finally had the actual service with a number of family that came from out of town. And there was that barn I shot that film in. So it's now owned by me.
Wow.
And my brother and sister.
That's great.
So I have great pictures of those a couple of days where there was sun in Oregon. The fact that it happened in December is shocking. But I had another eventful experience. I flew from LA to Portland and I saw every volcano in California and Oregon on the way in the sunshine in December. So there's about 12 of them. And it was very fun for me. Those of you that have taken that flight, you know what I mean. So anyway, my background is, besides the 10-year-old film, I made films in high school. I convinced teachers to switch different assignments to films or writing stories, which several of them did, which I'm grateful for. I got to direct a play when I was in high school. That was my drama teacher's contribution to my career, the first person that ever supported me in that. And then I was managing movie theaters, moved to LA to see a class at the Sherwood Oaks Experimental College with the late great Gary Chusette, and I got to be friends with him and do a lot of work with him. I saw a lot of classes, did a lot of seminars. I highly recommend seminars and reading and watching films. I saw 182 feature films in a cinema, a lot of them in double features because you couldn't get DVDs and didn't exist yet, and VHSs were super expensive. I remember the VHS copy of Altered States from Warner Brothers was $82. This is in 1980.
Wow.
That was like $350 now, right? So, I guess some people bought it, but it didn't last long. Anyway, so I was doing that at that time. And then I got into some low budget work with Roger Corman Studios, New World Pictures, building sets for James Cameron, production designer at the time. And that work has held me in good stead in the last few months in Space Command, where I've been now supervising construction of the sets. So you never know what kind of experience will come in handy in the future. So then I was working in sound design on films like Pulp Fiction and Total Recall and Predator 2 and Tremors and all films like that. And I got out of that doing other people's films like that, started doing my own independent films and working with friends and whatnot. Now I have just announced 2 more awards. I have 67 Film Festival awards now. Rekindling Christmas that I did with James Guinier had an Emmy nomination, Daytime Emmy nomination, which is cool. We've got the New York Movie Award for Best Feature Film and the London Movie Awards for Best Picture. That just happened this week.
Great.
Also, a couple weeks ago, I got confirmed that I'm now a TV Academy member officially. So that's really fun too.
Great.
So I've been having a lot of stuff going on in the last few weeks, and that's just like maybe half of them. So anyway, on to Space Command.
Yes.
Space Command has all sorts of opportunities for people to paint things and build sets and help lay carpet, which we're about to do tomorrow, which will take 5 minutes, but all of it adds up. So if I'm there by myself alone doing these things, I collapse into a terrible sobbing heap. And all help is welcome. Some of it is paid. We have a rate now that we can pay people to come and help out. You can do anything you want. Basically, what we're doing for the day, a lot of it doesn't take prior training, like painting, for example, and construction things and sets. And we're always ending up with some new items in the studios that we built. 2 of them came in yesterday, a brand new console that Mark found, and a thing, I'm not quite sure what to call the other thing. It's a bed decoration that looks like a sleep chamber.
It's a cryogenic pod, and it was made for Electric Dreams, which was a Philip K. Dick anthology. The spaceship console, which lights up and has switches and all sorts of stuff, was made for Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. I mean, basically, we acquire different parts and pieces to utilize with the sets that we build in Space Command. And they also mentioned, David, that there's a medical pod from Passengers. I've just been looking at it on the digital copy I have, and it's pretty impressive. And so there's stuff for us to talk about, relating to that. So we'll talk. So what else?
If there's any storage space we can use, I could definitely love to talk to you guys about that.
Yes. In terms of storage, yeah. Well, let me mention that, David. In terms of storage space, we went to the prop store. It was an amazing experience. I've seen the one in England. This is the one here. They have incredible stuff. And one of the things they had was, what would you describe it as from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Because you've watched that show. I haven't.
It's an isolation chamber. What you do is you take any kind of a demon of any kind, and somehow they've designed this box. Whatever you put in there can't escape.
Wow.
I don't know how they do what all the demons ever were to build this box, but they did.
Wow.
And if it gets really bad, they push a button and it shoots through the floor and goes down and gets destroyed on Earth.
Wow.
Two of the characters of that were trapped in there against their will and jettisoned in that very way, and we're on the bottom of the ocean for several episodes and almost died. So
wow.
It's right there in the back of that.
Yeah, and so they're waiting to see if someone is going to claim it by the 15th, but if not, they're going to give it to us if we can find a place to put it. So that's very impressive.
Free 8 feet by 12 feet by 7 feet high.
Yeah,
and it has these big corners on it, and it's pretty big.
But if you need somewhere to live, it sounds ideal, so, yes, but so great. So what else do you need?
I'm moved off of me. I'm on a Space Command.
Okay.
So that's kind of the present. We're always collecting interesting items to use as set decorations. Electronic things are possible, because if sometimes as things blow up, they, insides jump out and they're on fire or whatever it is, and so wires and things like that are always useful. We have it seems like each week is some more specific kinds of things that you just call and say, what's up for this week, and I can say, well, this is what we're doing today or the next week, and we might need some for a long time I was collecting the insides of styrofoam packing boxes to create shapes that go on the walls, and we've kind of like one full circle on that. But if you guys come across something like that that's really unusual, that would be cool. And I don't know, I guess that's kind of about it for that, really. Yeah, it's mostly the painting and the carpentry. I'm actually looking for a carpenter, a real carpenter that knows what they're doing. Real carpenters always come with their own tools. They often have a truck. I need that person. That's very, very important. If you know anyone that's like that, you can have them call. If you're like that, you can definitely call.
Cool.
That's something we could use very badly right now.
Okay.
And that's about it for that. So now we move on to the table email. If you're new and you want to get on the table email, you can contact me. If you're on the table email and having difficulties, you can also contact me. So my email is davefilms, DAVEFILMS @hotmail.com. I will put this into the chat, and you guys can send me an email and say that you want to get on the table email. The first thing you need is you have to have an email name that has your first and last name. It can have numbers or whatever, but it has to have your first and last name, full names, and it can't be at Yahoo. I don't know why, but Yahoo is not working for us. So if you want to please send me your first and last name, numbers are okay, whatever, and anything else like Gmail, whatever, than Yahoo, I will get you set up. Sometimes we've gotten people set up in the span of the meeting. Tonight I'm not sure, but we have done that before. So that's the way to do that. I will put this email into the chat, as I said, and we will, talk to you guys soon.
Okay. Yay. 3 cheers. Excellent. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
Yes. Kevin Scott 76 says, what is the cheapest bad science fiction movie in your opinion, and also the cheapest good one?
There's a lot of really bad ones, low budget ones that I love, like Creation of the Humanoids is one of my favorites. Invaders from Mars, the original one, is terrific. Cheapest, gosh, I'd have to really think about that, because again, there are many, many low budget science fiction films that are great. Another Earth is really good. I love Solaris. I have no idea what that cost, but it wasn't a big budget film. The Solaris, the Russian one. And there's a ton of stuff, and so it's really worth checking. But again, it's very important to check out what's good and what's not, because there's an enormous amount of schlock. Generally, the bad science fiction movies from the 50s are still interesting, whereas the bad science fiction movies from the 80s on are really awful. I mean, all the ones that try to rip off Road Warrior or Star Wars or whatever, they just, generally suck. So, but there's a lot of good ones nevertheless. And I've done the history of science fiction movies, and that could give you on Mr. Sci-Fi in installments, and that could give you some guidelines in terms of what to check out. So let's see who's next on my screen. I guess Alessandro, if you want to take your turn, please go for it.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So I was also on the panel at Los Angeles Comic Con, which was terrific. I thought it was really inspiring. Thank you, Mark,
you're welcome.
for that. And so I just thought this idea of the table was really interesting, and I wanted to check it out. And I guess I'll send an email to David later so I can become part of the mailing list.
Great.
A little bit about myself. So I was always interested in filmmaking. I studied. I have a degree in engineering for cinema and media, and then one in filmmaking, one from Italy and one from the UK in London. I published a short film on YouTube, which got about 500,000 views, which was good for a channel that didn't have any subscribers at the time.
Wow.
Then I've been working in tech for the last couple of years, so I haven't really been active very much, but I managed to put some money aside, so now I have some savings and I can go back to my passion. So I started working on my first feature-length script, and so that's what I'm doing now.
Great.
And that's mainly it. Well, I'm also a hobby musician on the side. I play a couple of instruments and I can produce electronic music. So I just wanted to say that. So if anybody here needs a soundtrack for something, I'm willing to help out for free or for a nominal amount. So just feel free to hit me up. And that's basically it on my side.
Okay.
Well, nice to meet you all.
Yes. What, darling? Is there anything you need at this point?
No, not really. I had some questions about how to join the mailing list, but David answered everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, David handles that, and that's great and terrific. And what's the genre of the feature you're going to make?
So that's science fiction. So
wow,
that's also why I was really interested in your panel.
Yes,
your experience.
It's very important if you're making a science fiction film to start noticing who has the skills that you require, whether it's visual effects or actors or whatever, because there's a lot of them. And with visual effects, you no longer need that person to be here in Los Angeles. People are doing visual effects all around the world. I mean, there's costumers, there's creature makers, there's all sorts of people. So it's definitely worth asking for what you need as it occurs. And you can find very, very talented people who will not be insanely expensive. So that's something I'd recommend. Great. Well, welcome, Alessandro. Yay! Great. So now, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi? Yes,
although if
Dave.
you can learn VFX yourself, Alessandro, I don't know if you're a VFX guy, but if you can do it yourself, it's so much more efficient because you have to work on somebody else's schedule. And as far as low budget goes, there's a guy who has a history with us at the table, who I edited a few films for, named Neil. What's his name? Neil Johnson.
Yes.
And for a guy who will just do stuff on his own, he does the VFX. I edited a few films for him. He's edited the others himself. But check out some of his films. You won't see necessarily Star Wars there, but to just get an idea of what's possible for virtually no money. This guy was cranking these things out for $50,000 to $100,000 each, and he has a distribution deal, and he's making a living on it. Not a huge living, but just for example.
Yes.
What's his name again, please?
Neil Johnson. You can check him out on IMDb and see what his films are, or if you can cross-reference them to my name, Dave Edison, because I edited a few of his films. So if you see both of our names, that's the guy.
Yes. And also, so Neil was making features for about 50,000, and they have a lot of visual effects. The writing is not as strong as it might be, but it's definitely worth looking at. And Alessandro, are you here in Los Angeles, or where are you located?
So no, not yet. So I'm originally from Italy.
Yes.
But, yeah, I've been working in the Bay Area in California. My girlfriend is from around here, so currently I'm in the Bay Area. But I'm looking to relocate to LA again in the next couple of years, because I've been there for a few days last week, and in just a few days I managed to meet you and other people, go to a movie screening, as you were saying, where you have Q&A after. So it's really, I can see how it's important to be there.
Yes, it helps. Amazing things can happen just because of the people you meet. So yeah, absolutely. But 3 cheers, welcome, yay, excellent. So, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
Yes. Alex Smith says, when is someone going to do a series about a great fantasy work, The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant?
It's an interesting question. I mean, most popular science fiction and fantasy series have been acquired at one time or another. It's just a question of the stars aligning to where they get green lit. And the more that you have things like Wheel of Time or, other series of books succeeding, the more you'll get more of these series being picked up and made. So, it just is a matter of finding the right creative personnel and the right executives to make it happen. So yeah, absolutely. So let's see. So Carol Field, you're next on my screen.
Hi, thank you both for being here.
Sure.
Did you know there's an organization like this in New York years ago, but you had to be in a Broadway show, an off-Broadway show, just come from being in or working on a commercial or TV show or a movie in order to talk. Otherwise, you couldn't talk. You could show up if you had been there before, but you couldn't talk. Wow. So it was kind of cool. It lasted quite a few years. I just went once in a while, but I wasn't as loving as this. But wasn't. But it was a good idea. But I just wondered if you would ever. I forgot who ran it.
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, we have our own version in New York, but we have a table in New York, but it's open like this. Yes.
I'm pretty sure predated that. No, well, maybe not. Maybe it did cross over for a while. Anyways, I'm mostly on here as an actress, as most of you know. I feel inauthentic because I'm not going to auditions right now. If somebody wants me to be in something, I'll be in it. I've been in 5 table reads since the pandemic.
Wow.
And some there's money behind it. So, if something happens, whatever, But David Bartlett, I'm really sorry about your father. Please accept my condolences, and I hope everything was well in your space. I'm really sorry about that. Something really nice. I met a woman at American Film Market. We connected because of our musical background. She has a publication in Australia called Apoho Publications, and it's where people go to get crew for movies, and also come to pick up scripts and stuff, and find a few actors. And they don't really use agents there. It's a whole different system. So we liked each other, and she's the president of this major publication, and she interviewed me yesterday from Australia.
Oh, wow.
It was so much fun. Of course, we had a 19-hour difference, so I was talking to her on Thursday, and it was Wednesday for me. It's very sci-fi. So, but it was so much fun, and because she was interested. I was an actress many years, and I'm writing, and I have other work. And she talked to me for an hour. It's going to be on their podcast. It was just super fun to talk about yourself for an hour.
Oh, wow.
But I threw the kitchen sink, and I threw my family and living in Detroit, and my whole background, not just the creative stuff. It was really fun. So when it comes out, I'll let you know, because I know you all can't wait. I just read this cool thing that years ago in New York, I auditioned for, I don't remember if it was Lee Theodore or Susan Oakes. It was the original Anybody's from West Side Story.
Wow.
And I went to the very end of this thing for a traveling kids show. It was supposed to go to travel for 6 weeks and then go to Lincoln Center. I didn't get it. I did not get it. But I remember thinking, I got sort of close to her, and I wanted to tell her, you were a great androgynous person. Anybody's in West Side Story was the real androgynous person that went between the Jets and the Sharks.
Mm-hmm.
It was really great.
Huh.
And I to tell you I never got to tell her she was a great androgynous person. But I just read that the new West Side Story, Steven Spielberg went for a transgender guy for Anybody.
Wow.
Which is kind of cool because the person is so non-gender androgynous. And it's funny that I just read it and I thought, oh, that's kind of, I guess that's present day kind of wonderful. Right? I am, full disclosure, I'm kind of sad that I'm not going to movies until this pandemic clears some more because of my brother and brother-in-law with their backgrounds yelling at me saying, don't you dare. So I'm not, but I'm going to let it fritter by until it comes to some other situation or the pandemic dies. But it will be sad. And I'm sort of, excuse me, I guess I did a movie for Steven Spielberg. I don't think he knows that I'm a dancer. So like, he'd almost call me to be, a shark anyways. But like, I just can't help but be a little like freaked because it's like, well, I wish I was close enough to him still to say, why don't you just come in and dance in the background, just something, because I can still dance like those people. Sorry. I left West Side Story, the original, holding my mommy's hand when I was a little girl looking up at her striped dress, and I said to her, I'm going to dance like them one day. Maybe I did. I won't say if I did or didn't. But I know. So like, I'm sort of pissed and whatever. I must tell you one last thing. I won't tell you who. An agency contacted me about my writing, but they wanted me to submit through the proper channels. That was exciting, but I could not believe it in the submission list. I had to write down if I was gay, straight, or bi. That's what they asked.
Wow.
They wanted to know what my ethnicity was. They wanted to know, even though I'm gay, straight, or bi, what do I identify with? This is a fairly major agency in LA.
Wow.
I thought, like, I wrote down cisgender Jewish, okay? Like, take it from there. I said, but I did my DNA and I've got a lot of Asian and Italian in me. Do I qualify for anything?
Sure.
But I thought it was so weird. I guess they're trying to be politically correct and hip.
I guess.
But I thought it was inappropriate, actually, to ask those things.
I think it's fine not to answer those things. I mean, I think it'd be very interesting to call the Labor Relations Board and find out what's legal and what's not in those kind of questionnaires, because I think there's certain things they are not allowed to ask. And so, but I understand what you're talking about. So is there anything else you need, Carol?
No, just that they also want to know if I was Inuit.
Well, really? I think pretty much anyone can say yes to that one. I mean, I think we all have some. I mean, most of us probably did come over the Bering ice sheet and into America. So yeah, Inuit. Yeah, absolutely.
I swear, I wish I could show it to you. I could not believe. I wanted to write a snappy answer, but you weren't there. So
yes. Well, it was really interesting in terms of background because my grandfather abandoned the family before my dad was born. We never knew about where the Zickeries were from until The Twilight Zone Companion came out, and a distant relative saw my name on the cover and got in contact with me, and she had the family tree going back to the 17th century, and I found out that my family's from Morocco. So that would that would not have been my first guess, but there you go.
Well, let's say they wandered through Morocco. I mean, it seems like they were wandering everywhere.
Yes, exactly. So
so Southern Europe and Morocco, sure. I can see
that. Sure, absolutely. So anything else for now?
No, I'm done foaming at the mouth.
Okay, yay! 3 cheers, excellent. So, David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes, we have Michael Aldridge Greenwell.
Great.
I love Space Command.
Thanks. Me too.
Chris Moore says he's watching from Kentucky.
Ooh.
We have all kinds of here and there people tonight, which is awesome.
Cool.
Galinda says, no, not Galinda. She's going to wait. It'll be okay. It'll be here. Mark Longo says, have you ever regretted writing something?
I've regretted. There was one show where the showrunner was so relentlessly mediocre that there was no way to get a good idea past him, and that was very, very frustrating because I was working out a storyline with one of the writer producers on the show, and we were coming up with some really great stuff, and then he would just come in and shoot it all down and insist that we do the most cliche thing possible, and it was very, very frustrating. So that was a problem. But yeah, I don't really have a lot of regrets in terms of what I've written. Mainly I have regrets in terms of, I mean, the only thing I turned down that I shouldn't have turned down was Michael Reeves wanted me to write an episode of Batman the Animated Series, and by then I was totally into live action and didn't want to write animation anymore. But if I could go back, I think I would have written that one. So let's see. So now I guess Sabrina, you're up if you want to take your turn.
All right. Hi guys. My name is Sabrina Olsen. I met you, Mark, at the panel, and it was awesome. And I just want to thank you so much for everything for that.
Yes, you bet.
I'm originally from Southern California, but now I live kind of by Las Vegas. I was really into film at a young age. I didn't really make any films until I went to film school at NYU, but I was completely a Spielberg fan from a young age. Started with Jurassic Park and the score and just the whole movie and the whole experience, and just got so deep into his canon and just loved his stuff. And I also have been a huge fan of Star Trek The Next Generations since I was about 8. So that was, I devoured that show, probably from the Best of Both Worlds on, and then just went back into it. And yeah. Let's see now. Well, like with film school, I loved being in New York. I loved meeting people and doing all those things, but I never found my people. So I just never really got things going with film. And then I came back home to California. I was still kind of far away. And so I just never really got started in the field. And now what's going on now is I have a lot of creative energy going on. Actually, a couple months ago, I got an idea for a story for a script for the TV show The Orville. And that's kind of been my guiding post at this point. Actually, at the convention, got to meet 4 of the actors from the show.
Wow.
And just was kind of mind blown by their coolness and their response to just the briefest part of the story. I mean, they don't only act, like they write and direct, and they do all kinds of other things. So they're good people to talk to for that. And gosh, just had an amazing time with that. So that's kind of where I am at this point. And getting the writing going. I'm about 13 pages in still. Got a little bit done during the time, and just gonna keep going, get that script done hopefully by the end of the year.
Great. Is there anything you need?
That arc and write some other things too.
Sure. Is there anything you need?
Oh, what do I need? Well, I work full time, so I do have a job that's not in the field. At some point, they do want us all to come back to the office, and I don't want to come back to the office.
Yeah.
Start of February.
Right.
So I'm just starting to see what might be out there in terms of the film industry, and I would actually like to probably go into editing, like maybe at least remotely at first. I did that. I wrote and directed a couple of my own shorts. I edited one of them. The other one I just never finished. But I love editing so much. And I really want to get back into that. So I guess one thing I want to know is just, I don't really have a portfolio anymore at this point. All of my stuff is on ancient media.
Yes.
Beta tapes and VHS.
Oh,
so
God.
I really need to start from scratch and create some new stuff. So I guess for the people who are the editors in the room, what are some good things to just get going and put out there so I can either start a reel again or just go from my knowledge and passion.
So Dave, do you have a suggestion?
Well, I'm a little out of touch because I've been so involved with Space Command for 10 years that I can't tell you how many career opportunities I've let slip by.
Yes, we've destroyed you.
But I was going to say something, but what it just slipped away. What was it? Mark Ogushwitz, do you have a thought? I'll get back to that thought when it comes back.
Can you ask the question again? Because I was walking in when you were in the middle of it.
I think I can comment on this. The concept of a reel with multiple clips in it and choosing which one it was is now, I don't know if it's completely dead, but it's,
good.
And what people are doing now is they're doing one clip and you put a bunch of clips onto the acting websites that are out there, and the people that are watching out for casting roles, they'll look for the genres that you have, and they'll look at your genre clips and see if they fit, and they'll do it that way. This is supposed to be done now. It's a little expensive on the actor's website end, and you got to pay for each of those uploads, but it stays there. I guess it stays there forever. It's supposed to stay there forever.
I think it was.
So this is something I'm aware of.
I believe she's
What I
looking
have,
for
what I have is
editing.
my own website, and on the website I have tabs for narratives, corporate, music videos, and then they link to individual videos. Because when you try to edit a reel together, it doesn't really show your editing because it's just small clips. But if they can see like a little 30-second clip, no longer than that, of something that you've done that's full, they can get more of an idea of what you're capable of.
Okay.
And also, one thing I will say is when editing a clip, if you do your job right as an editor, nobody notices.
Exactly.
So you can totally save a shot that was framed entirely wrong. Something's came into the shot or whatever that you've managed to cobble together. So what I've done is I've done before and afters. So show somebody what the shot looked like before, and I've done explanations. There's a clip on my reel that I've got to redo. It's been many years since I've updated it, but it's a shot. In fact, it's from one of those Neil Johnson films that I mentioned, where the action is happening and it says on screen the following stunt was the following effect was done without stunts or VFX, totally in editing. And you see the shot. Now I don't explain how it was done, but you know that there was no stunt work involved and there was no VFX involved. So things like that, if that's the type of editing you do.
Cool.
Okay.
Great.
There's a thing I did for a comedian's DVD, and I had a shot that he had one camera on him at the time, and fortunately the camera was locked down, but he stumbled over a line. And it was the only take you have. Now he got away with it in person, but you can't get away with it on video. It's got to be perfect. So I managed to fix the line, and again I just did before and after, and those are the kind of things where they don't have to know how it's done. In fact, one guy I was working with, I fixed something for him. I said, "Let me show you what I did," and he said, "I don't want to know what you did." I said, "Well, if I tell you what I did, you'll have it in your toolbox if you're working with another editor." And he said, "What makes you think I ever want to work with another editor?" Which was a nice compliment.
Yes.
This guy was a real pain.
Of course.
At times. So I came this close to saying, "What makes you think?"
One of the things that is real, I get most of my jobs through referrals and references, because you cannot possibly put a reel or clips together that explain to people what you do as an editor, because sometimes it's basically rearranging scenes or taking really bad shots, reframing them and making them work. The problem with that is if it works, everybody thinks it was just shot and intended that way.
Right.
And so you really want to build up you really want your clients to like you so that they will recommend you out, and if you need a reference, you can get one.
Frankly, I've gotten most of the work in the past 10 years from associations at the table. I mean, even feature films that had nothing to do with it. Somebody knew me who hired me to do some Kickstarter work for them. And there was a documentary that was being done via Kickstarter. Well, the film got their money, they made the film, but the director dropped out. So I stepped in. So it was things like that. It's not directly somebody on the table, but this guy who I never met before ended up working for him. So
Great.
Associations.
Cool.
Sweet. Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, 3 cheers. Welcome. Yay. Excellent. So, David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. Galinda says, "Love seeing the Space Command panel from San Diego Comic-Con. Do you have a favorite moment you'd like to share?"
Well, as you mentioned, I just put the entire panel on Mr. Sci-Fi, so that's pretty great. It's really fun to have Elaine on a panel because she doesn't appear on panels often, and so that's really fun for me. And you know, it's really fun as we're getting closer to being done with the first 2 hours to be able to share more and more of that with our fans. You know, it's just cool. You know, I mean, it's we're gonna on the Blu-ray, and we're gonna have a featurette that takes moments from all the different panels we've done over the years, and kind of choose, you know, cherry picks the best moments. Mark Gushowitz is working on that, and that should be really terrific. So so yeah, great fun. So let's see, let me look. So I guess Bonnie, you're next on my screen. You know, so go for it. Go ahead, Madam Vice President, please.
Thanks. Yeah. So this is my second week as interim vice president at the Musicians Union. So it's going great.
Great.
Yeah, they're happy. I'm happy. So all I need to do is be officially elected in January.
Cool.
But yeah, that's what's occupying most of my time right now. Yeah, that's pretty much most what I'm doing. But yeah, I'm glad to keep up with composing and all, and yeah, it's amazingly stimulating environment, really busy, lots happening, and many of these people at the union I've known for decades. There's some new people, but anyway,
Have you learned anything new?
Happy, so it's all going well. But
have you learned anything new in your post? I mean, about the way unions work, about the way people work. Have any new insights from now being a full-timer?
I am learning some new, yeah, more in depth about the collective bargaining agreements, but yeah, really seeing, yeah, different issues. Because the vice president, the last one, he just did not choose to participate in any of the bargaining, but I'm not bargaining the collective bargaining agreements yet, but the president of state bring me in to hear bargaining, and yeah, I'm seeing a lot, you know, very in-depth, any type of issues, things like that, meeting the different employers. Yeah, it's our the unions open only to the employees, not the members. And
Right.
I already knew this, but to a deeper level, you know, now it's the end of the year. Membership dues are going to be due January.
Great. That's great. Ka-ching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, we don't want to open the rehearsal rooms too soon, and the members love that service. There are 7 rooms, and they get used all the time. Non-COVID, great price. It's just something. It's a big service to the members, but not only, you know, if you're going to have like big bands in there, and you're going to have woodwinds and brass, you know, string players and rhythm section players can wear masks. Yeah, do that to play woodwinds and brass. So
right.
It's really complex. Did find out that some locals are having rehearsal rooms, but they're much smaller locals. They say they only have maybe one kind of auditorium, multi-purpose room. We have 7 rooms going. If there are a couple big bands, you got a lot of people in there. So, yeah, we don't want to open too soon with, you know, variants of things. And the members keep asking. You know, the vice president office is in charge of the archives, rehearsal rooms, and the referral service, which hasn't been in action, and at helping with negotiations. Something else I was just going to say, but yeah, it's interesting. Get some calls from members, and then some already knew that I was vice president. One person was like, "Oh wow, I didn't know you were in that spot." It's funny, but I know a lot of the players, so
that's great.
Yeah, it's cool.
Cool. Well, great. Well, I mean, but that's great. Well, yeah. So just remember to start laying your plans to, you know, take over so that the interim is no longer part of the title. So, you know, I mean, just
the president is brilliant. gosh, she's the president and secretary treasurer are both brilliant.
Yeah.
So no, I don't want her job, but
Right. No.
with her is great.
But great. Well, 3 cheers, Bonnie.
I'm gonna take over. All 3 officers are women.
Yes.
Like that.
That's great. Yay. Excellent. 3 cheers. So, David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yeah, Scott Baker says, we heard mention of Space Command as a feature.
Yeah.
Will this mean rather than a TV series, Space Command will have sequels to complete the story arc?
It's not. Basically, it's a 2-hour pilot, and it splits down the middle as 2-hour episodes. But it can also be a 2-hour, story with a beginning, middle, and an end. But the way this first season is structured is 2-hour stories that make a larger story when put together. So,
we wanted to have the alternative of it either being part of a series or broken up into a series of features, just as an alternative. So that's why they're structured as 2 hours. Each unit.
Yeah. So, but it's but again, I don't really classify it as movie or TV. I mean, it's I'm a TV writer, and so this is a TV show. But it's just a big canvas. That's so I never envisioned it as being a theatrical release or anything like that. The people who are going to watch it are going to watch it on screen, whether a very big screen or a very little screen. That's how they're going to be accessing it. So it's never been my big dream to do movies. I love television, and Elaine's much more a feature person, and she wants to see her actors' faces 80 feet tall or whatever. But but that's why they have to be good looking, because otherwise it's just unpleasant.
Actually, I just long for the popcorn.
The popcorn, yes. And so, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David? Oh, that was the question. Got it. No. Great. I'm back. Mark Gushowitz, you're up. The wonderful Mark Gushowitz, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello. Okay, so I've been having a really interesting kind of week, in the sense of, if one thing goes right for me this week, I will be really, really happy.
Good. You can hope.
So I have been having everything go wrong. I have spent probably a total of 6 hours on the phone with Adobe, screaming and yelling, and then getting some nice people who've been trying to help me out, but they still haven't figured out what's going on with my Premiere Pro, why it will not export with the broadcast safe signal that I need for so many things, including Space Command. They're going to be calling me back on Monday, and hopefully they'll have a solution. Right now, they're thinking that I'm going to have to reboot my whole entire system because they're thinking there might be a conflict somewhere missing files, which will be a nightmare. That being said, as much as I can't export, I can still edit. So I am going to be moving forward with at least trying to get this stuff ready so that the minute they help me solve this problem, I can then export a whole bunch of stuff for you.
Cool. Sounds great.
The Mirror Tribute, the screen tests, and as soon as you give me an intro, the Ian McCain.
Okay, great.
As well as the 3 trailers again, because I put some music underneath the logos. I know you haven't looked at them yet, so just wait until I get those links up.
Cool.
Dave Edison just handed me a bunch of Comic-Con stuff, which I haven't looked at yet, so I'm going to start fast-forwarding through that and pulling stuff. I'm going to really concentrate on the last 2 Comic-Cons you had, because they're recent. And so it's going to be more recent news, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay.
So that might be more interesting. And so that's been really, really interesting. Also, because of my time's been completely busied up, I haven't spent a lot of time on my website, but I will recommend people go to it because there's still plenty for people to see. It's called Underexposed Cinematic Treasures. There's lots of little underexposed films that I recommend out. I am in the process of writing up a review for my all-time favorite holiday film, which ironically enough, nobody has really seen. But to me, it's called Prancer, and if you haven't seen it, you definitely need to see it. The editing jobs, thankfully, all my clients have been really good about the computer issues because I've been really, really busy. But most of my clients, I've had for 5-10 years. So this is whoever was asked that question before. If you're really good to your clients, they also will put up with a lot because people understand computer issues and stuff.
Yeah.
And they know they grow to rely on you, and so they know that you're going to stand by them, and that will also get them to recommend you out a lot more. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, so give me the Ian McCabe 1-minute intro.
Sure.
So I'd love to plop that on because this Sunday, which I was going to go see West Side Story, I have now decided I'm going to make a Space Command day. I'm going to really try to, because I haven't worked on it all this week, so I'm really going to try and put at least 8 hours into it.
Cool.
So if you could get me that intro, I
Sure.
can drop that in.
Sure.
Congratulations to Dave Bartlett for all the accolades.
Great. Yeah.
And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. For the person who asked about the low budget B movie, I recommend a movie called Cube. Especially if you want to learn how to do a low budget movie, because I don't know if you've seen this movie, Mark, but I'm pretty much sure that they make it look like you're in all these different rooms inside a cube, but they pretty much use the same set for all of them because each room is designed to look identical to itself. And so that's a real interesting way to kind of do something on a low budget.
Well, yeah, great. And also, Mark, for those who had a bad week this week, I can recommend something that will immediately raise their spirits, which is that a few days ago on Fresh Air, Terry Gross interviewed the 95-year-old Mel Brooks, and it's wonderful. He's still Mel Brooks. He's still got his brains and his wits and his humor, and it's a wonderful interview.
He
and
just put this book out.
Right, he just wrote his memoir all about me. And so if you want to just immediately smile and laugh, that's the place to go. Fresh Air, Mel Brooks interview, and amazing.
I will say this on that. I met Mel Brooks on numerous occasions with his wife, Anne Bancroft, when she was still alive. And he was one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And I actually spent some real time with him because I was managing a movie theater at the time, and he came in twice in 1 week. And the first time, this was when I learned that celebrities are just regular people. I was asked to have Anne Bancroft sign a poster for Critical Care. And I don't like doing that when people are just trying to have their good time, but I was asked by my boss to do it. So I did, and it was so funny. Anne Bancroft goes into the lobby, and Mel Brooks comes up to the box office, and I sent my box office person away because I wasn't going to have her do it because it's kind of rude. And I said to him, look, just let you know that I can let you in for free if your wife will sign this poster. And all of a sudden, he became a child. Anne, come here. We're going to get in free. Oh, Mel, we can pay. You don't need to get in for free. No, if you sign this poster, we'll get in for free. And you start to realize how normal these celebrities are because you put them on like a pedestal.
Yes.
And so it was for a movie called Critical Care, and I had asked her if she'd seen it, and she hadn't. So the following Friday, she came in to see it. And he was signing, the 1,000-Year-Old Man stuff over at the bookstore. He didn't know how to get there. So I got to walk them over to the bookstore.
Wow.
And
Wonderful.
just the nicest people on the planet, and she's all like, he's all like, you sure you don't want to come to the signing? Because she was going to go home. And she's all like, oh, no, Mel, this is for you and Carl, because Carl Reiner was there.
Wow.
I'm going to go home, watch some TV. Just call me and wait for me in the parking lot when it's over. And now I just picture like Mel Brooks, this big famous guy, standing in a parking lot looking at his watch, waiting for his wife to come pick him up.
Wow, that's cool.
And he introduced me to Carl Reiner. We had a lot, we had a conversation. Just nicest person in the world, Mel Brooks. And I totally have always been a fan of his, and buy his book. It's a really good book. Support him. He's up there in age, and he's still kicking it. He's about to put together a whole new series, and also check out his Brooks films like The Fly and Elephant Man, which a lot of people didn't know he produced.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I had the best experience with him, so I'm gonna.
That's cool. Well, that's great. Well, cheers.
Mel Brooks anecdote. An actor I know worked in the set with him, and he said he would be rolling in the take, and he would say, "Cut, wrong."
That's funny. That's funny.
That was his direction.
Yes, God, Jesus. So
I put up a clip of a friend a few years ago who was on the Paul Reiser show, Mad About You, where Brooks had a recurring role as Paul's uncle. And there was a courtroom scene, and my friend played the lawyer for Mel Brooks, my buddy, actor, comedian Hiram Caston, who's been on a million things. And it was an outtake that I put up. I didn't make it to the show, but there was one point where they had cut and they were resetting, and Mel was talking about how he wanted to do a shot, and Hiram comes up with this thing totally unexpected, and Brooks cracked up, and the audience cracked up, and it was just nice again to see this guy. He could have brushed him off. He was this actor. This was doing a small role, but Brooks just went with him and made him feel great.
That's great. That's great.
It's up on YouTube if you want to see it. Just look Hiram Caston, Mel Brooks. If you punch that in, you'll find it.
Cool.
Wow.
Okay, so Mark, is there anything else you need?
I need some sanity.
Okay.
No. I'm just gonna say this one more time. Just an intro to the In the Cave Club.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yay, 3 cheers. So, David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yes. Bruce Moore says here, I better do this one. Scott Baker says, Mr. Sci-Fi, are you aware that Real Ghostbusters is now streaming on Plex?
Wow.
Do you get residuals?
Normally you don't get residuals on animation, but they've started to send me foreign residuals and some, I think, domestic. I got a bunch of residuals on Smurfs recently, oddly enough, and which is fine. It wasn't a huge amount of money, maybe a few $100, but still, it's free money out of the sky. So so that's I'm happy to get free money. I have no complaints about that. Though residuals used to be much more lucrative. One person I knew told me once that on one residual check he was able to buy a house, and that's pretty impressive. But we don't tend to get residuals like that anymore. But yeah, but I mean, at this stage, it's just I have no complaints about anything really. Life is exciting, and my gosh, and it's
Doug Jones said that when he did the Mac Tonight commercials, he did a bunch of commercials, but he said that bought him his first house.
Yeah, well, I remember when I was with Rene Auberjonois at his place once. Rene, we were talking about his house, and he said Benson bought this house and Deep Space Nine saved it. So I thought that was great. And I actually quote that in Greenlighting Yourself, because so many people think that if you're a known actor, you're just naturally wealthy, and that's not true at all. Even successful actors struggle and have ups and downs in their career. So that's a useful thing to know. So let's see. So now I guess Thane Allison. Thane, are you there? Thane, you want to take your turn?
Thane?
Yeah, he's doing it.
Okay.
There I am.
There you go.
Hi, okay.
Go for it.
SAG-AFTRA character actor. Had two auditions since we last spoke.
Wow, good.
They're all self-tape, and that's a bit of a challenge, but I'm kind of getting the routine down to where it's not such a big deal, and waiting for Godot, I guess. We'll see what happens. Both of them were fun auditions, and that's the way things are. Doing a little writing and keeping up with my Peace Corps group, and I had the privilege, honor to be interviewed for the oral history of the Peace Corps project at the University of Kentucky.
Wow.
A couple of weeks ago, and they're looking for the 250,000 Peace Corps volunteers who served around the world. Unfortunately, half of my group has passed away. One of my group was interviewed, and about 3 weeks later, he passed away. He was at least 15 years younger than me. So
wow.
It's one of those things got to get done, but it's a structured interview. And these interviews, then they have a software that will index them by subject and location and time and so on. So pretty interesting process. So if you're looking for nurses who served in the Peace Corps in the early years and their story versus nurses who served most recently, and want to do some sort of a comparison contrast of the experience. They can find those two different sets of stories. So that's interesting. American University is also collecting archives and letters and so on. So that gives me something to work on, and doing a little writing on my show. Writing session tomorrow, and writing class on Saturday.
Great.
And then on Saturday afternoon, I'm hosting a 3-hour talent show online. I'm also a producer there. And
wow.
So I'm looking forward to showing off some new talent. And we have a couple of agents and critics lined up to give feedback to the talent. So it will be a couple of busy days here the rest of the week.
Cool.
Oh,
Great. Well,
okay.
terrific. Well, 3 cheers, thing. Yay. Good job. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
Yes. Bruce Moore says, Mark, in your Greenlight book, I'm sure you cover how to organize your daily writing routine.
Yes.
Can you talk about a typical busy day for you and Elaine?
Yes, we can. But one thing I'll say is that the best writing regimens I know of are writers who write at least 5 days a week for at least a couple hours a day. Guillermo del Toro does that. Ray Bradbury did it. It's a very good way to get a writing discipline. It's not saying, okay, when you feel the inspiration or any of that stuff. It's just like writing regularly. In my life, I don't tend to do that as much as I'd like, simply because I'm also writing, producing, directing, doing all the stuff I'm doing. So I have to juggle between things. But on any given day, Elaine and I are definitely doing some aspect of writing, outlining, rewriting. Elaine's laying out the floor plan of a set. We're dealing with our art director, production designer, with David Bartlett, of course, on many aspects of post-production, running the visual effects team, etc. Getting and recording with Dave pretty much every day on the editing of all this stuff. And we work out 3 times a week for 3 hours at a time with our trainer. We've done that for over 30 years now. Same guy. He looks great. And what else? I mean, we basically work at least 5 days a week, from the morning to the evening, one way or another. And we try to relax in the evenings. We try to take weekends off if we can. We try to take at least 1 day off a week if we can. And what would you like to add about our schedule?
No, just
walk the dogs.
It's busy. Yeah.
Take the dogs to the park. But yes, and I'm always thinking about all the different projects and the next steps. So right now we're finishing the first 2 hours of Space Command. We're doing visual effects on the 3rd hour. We've started shooting the 4th hour. That doesn't include the 2-hour bonus episode we did during the pandemic, or the prequel that we did prior to the pandemic. Plus, we're meeting with agents and managers. Plus, we're talking about the other projects, the Rod Serling project that I'm working on, the Fugitive Space, and Magic Time, and Sweet Haven. So there's always multiple projects. It's very nice to have finished greenlighting yourself, so I don't have to write it anymore. It's not that it was onerous to write it, but it's always nice to finish a book. Though I am probably going to read the audiobook. I haven't been the reader on any of the audiobooks all of my books have had audiobooks as well. I did an introduction on the Twilight Zone companion audiobook, but I didn't read all of it. But I'm probably going to do the reading on Greenlighting Yourself, because it's very much in my voice and from my experience and my personality. So, but essentially our day, see, it always depends on if you're just a writer or if you're a writer hyphenate, like a writer-director, writer-actor, writer, producer, because then you're going to be divvying up your time. In television, it's very important to get very, very good at multitasking. And Elaine and I are very good at that. But as is every successful writer-producer I know. you know, I mean, I like the variety of this career. I like the fact that at one point I'm thinking about spacesuits. At another point, I'm, you know, designing something or thinking about a scene I'm going to write or rewriting a scene. You know, we're about to do another draft on Great Solar War just because Elaine wants it to be about the issue, the subject of war, the fact that war is the enemy, not the person that you call the enemy. It's the whole notion of war being acceptable that's the enemy. And so that's a very interesting thing, and I've never seen that in anywhere. And so we're going to start re-breaking it, even though I've written several drafts of the script. We're going to, you know, go back to page 1 and rock and roll.
So I mean, part of the success of our marriage is we're both OCD.
Well, we're detail people, let us say.
Yeah.
We're both very detail oriented. So yes, so there you go. So next on my screen is B. Van Randall. You want to take your turn? If you're there. Oh, are you there, B. Van Randall? Oh, there you are.
Hi.
Yeah, so introduce yourself. Yeah, tell us what you're up to and what you need.
So my name is B. Van Randall, and first of all, you know, thank you for putting this on. I was sitting in your panel at the Comic-Con in LA.
Yeah.
And I just really enjoyed it. I
Thanks.
got a lot of information out of it, took some notes, and found it to be very valuable.
Great.
And yeah, welcome to everybody. Hi, everybody. Good to meet you all. I really enjoy these types of things, just to get connected with other creatives and other artists, and you know, just kind of get our names into different circles. So I'm a comic book writer. I write graphic novels and comic books. I run a company called Verse Comics USA.
Cool.
We recently won a Kresge Award, which was put on by the College of Creative Studies and the Kresge Foundation for our graphic novels. We've independently published about 7 titles. I think we're at now 7 graphic novel titles.
Cool.
I tried to go the route of sending in scripts to Dark Horse and Image and never got a response back. And so I just decided to self-publish.
Cool.
After a bad publishing deal.
Yes.
A publishing deal went sour. I then decided to self-publish, and it's paid off. So we just won an award. I've been making a transition into television.
Cool.
I'm also a stage play, a writer for stage plays.
Good.
I actually I have a couple of TV shows that I've been developing for networks. I pitched to a couple of my animated properties to Adult Swim.
Great.
They passed on those ideas, but what I got out of the experience, I believe, was priceless.
Yes.
I can say that I officially made it into the pitch room, and you know, and now I know what that's about. Even though it was through Zoom, it wasn't in person because it was post-COVID.
That's fine.
But I still kind of know what it's like to get ready, to try to get a pitch ready, to get feedback from, you know, real executives in Hollywood. So I found that to be very, you know, valuable thing to experience.
Cool.
Yeah, so with the comic books and the graphic novels now that we have, we're making the transition now, like I said, into TV, feature films, just trying to, you know, get our properties, get our IPs, you know, in with the studio if we can, and if not, you know, do some things independently, so that we can just get our content out there, whether the studios partner with us or not.
Great.
So do you loving to be a part of stuff like this?
So do you have any questions or things that you'd like to know how it works? Because you know,
I do actually.
Yeah, please.
What I find invaluable is just getting with other people who've been in the pitching room.
Yes.
And I just don't think you can get enough of that. So,
yes.
What I would like to know is, do you all at any time take pitches, hear pitches, just to sort of not to help get it into anybody's hands, but just simply for feedback? Like, you know, here's a 10-minute pitch.
Elaine, I don't know. Elaine can answer that. I don't because, you know, I mean, life's too short, but I'm happy to advise. I mean, you know, I've been a story editor and a producer as well, back when we would get a 22 episode order on a series like Sliders, and 11 of those would be freelance. So every afternoon we were taking pitches from freelance writers. So I can tell you what the huge mistakes that people make. For instance, going into way too much detail is a huge mistake. being too clever, like having it be like, I remember there was one team where they had clearly rehearsed their pitch and they were just so delighted with the fact that it was almost like a song and dance number. It's like, no, please don't. And you know, and then I mean, the main point is be present in the room, be friendly, make contact with everybody, because you don't know how the power goes. Okay. And always become friendly with the assistant, know the assistant's name, because they determine a lot of stuff. But being present and listening to the questions that are asked and answering the questions that are asked, because you'd be surprised how many writers are so nervous that you'll ask them a question and they'll answer a totally different question because they're not present. Also, when they ask you if you'd like a beverage, always say yes, because first of all, you'll be talking a lot and your mouth will go dry. And secondly, if you don't sell anything, at least you got something. So, you know, so, but the main thing is friendliness, brevity. Like you might have an hour for the meeting, but if you're pitching and can pitch it in like 5-10 minutes where they can then ask questions, that's good. You don't want to fill the full hour with your pitch, because that sucks all the air out of the room. You know, and again, and practicing it is a really, really, really good idea. Practicing it on people so that you can see where it starts to go off, where you start to lose people. That's really important. Visual aids are helpful, you know, but not to a point where you know, they overwhelm it. And
remember Ghost?
Well, yeah, Bruce Joel Rubin, when he pitched Ghost, he would look for when the executive's eyes would glaze over and refine his pitch and refine his story to a point where their eyes wouldn't glaze over. And it took him 100 pitches, but on the 100th pitch, it sold, and he won an Oscar for that script, you know. And so that was powerful. Yeah, but and also don't worry too much about being nervous. People are nervous, you know. Writers are not actors for the most part; they're not performers, and so they expect you. Some people can pitch really well, but they can't write for shit. Other people aren't as good at pitching, but as long as they at least and enthusiasm, by the way, passion, really caring about the story that you're telling, you know, not pitching it as though it's like, well, there's this demographic and that demographic and this, there should be this kind of merchandising. No, passion for the story. This is the story you want to tell. This is why it's important to you, and linking it to your life can be useful if that's pertinent, you know. So like if your dad was a beekeeper and this is a story about beekeepers or whatever, you know, that makes sense.
Also, not for everybody, but for like 99% of us, pitching is really hard.
Yes.
And that's why it's good to practice with friends who are supportive friends, because then you'll be going along and they'll say, well, wait a minute, what happened to Mr. X? And you'll say, oh, I dropped that thread. And sometimes they'll get befuddled because you're giving too much detail, and you sort of miss the heart of the story because you're following the heart line of the story, but you often miss something that is basic, and so we found it very helpful to do a lot of practice pitches, because you wait and you have a friend, or if they're in the industry, that's even better, where they continue to get real clarity. And so you get better and better at it, but especially in the beginning, and even years later, it's hard to do a really clear, concise pitch, even if the material is wonderful. So just exploit your friends mercilessly. Buy a lot of pizzas, and you know, treat them to pieces, and tell them your story.
I definitely I find value in that, and one of the things that I'm trying to get my head around is like a pitch for the studios, but then a pitch for, let's say, a writer that I'm trying to bring on board as a part of my team that, you know, may already be writing on a TV show. So I have access to some people like that I'm trying to solicit, that are showrunners or who have been showrunners. And so it, you know, in your experience, is your pitch to, if you're going to pitch to a potential showrunner to see if you can get them bought on the concept of your show, is your pitch going to be a more detailed with them than it is for the studios, or you pretty much are pitching the exact same way?
It's different.
No,
it's different.
Very different. I've got one pitch if I'm trying to get an actor, because it's not that you're pitching a different show, but everybody has to know something different. And when you're pitching to an actor, you pitch from their character's point of view. Not that they're aren't interested in the story, but that's what they need to know if they're going to get connected, right? And so if you're pitching to a network guy, you'll be aware of what would keep him from losing his job. I mean, how it fits into the market to a degree. You're not marketing it, but you're aware of that. If you're pitching to a showrunner, you're aware of how many twists and turns and how rich and fun it will be to write over a period of time. And how it's fresh for him. I mean, you would specifically research that showrunner and see where their feelings lie, where their interests lie, where their passions lie. And also you'd be finding out from the exec about the exec, what has he backed before? So research is important, but yes, I have a multitude of ways in which I pitch something, whether it's to the director or an actor or the network. But yes, you're completely correct. You have different pitches for each person.
Yeah, and just remember that there's a lot of different ways people pitch. The main thing is to convey excitement and clarity of the story. I mean, those are the two big ones, and
there's no formula. It's your own rhythm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, but okay. So anything else?
No, that's very valuable. Thank
Cool.
you for that.
Yay! 3 cheers. And again, for those who don't know, Elaine and I have written and sold hundreds of scripts, and we've done everything: pilots, comedy, drama, science fiction, horror, on and on, TV, movies, features, episodic TV, animation, books, novels.
I was like that story you told about the executive giving you all the information you needed to pitch back to him.
Yes. That was such a hard one. That was such a hard decision, because I pitched many times over the first couple of seasons to Star Trek: The Next Generation, and every time I pitched, the producer I pitched to wanted to buy at least one or more of the stories and then got fired before they could. That was David Gerald, it was Tracy Torme, it was on and on. And finally, I sat down with one of the guys who had actually been a producer on the original Star Trek and now was an executive producer on Next Gen, and he liked me so much and liked my abilities that even though he couldn't buy the very stories I was pitching, he worked up a storyline in the meeting that he was going to give me. And I had to decide whether or not to tell him that it was identical to an episode of the original Star Trek. And probably if I was doing it now, I wouldn't tell him, because there's ways to make things different as they progress. But at that time, I told him. And so he didn't move forward with it, and I didn't get that sale. It was several more years before I would sell to that show.
But there was the show that you hadn't had a chance to work for, and you said, "Oh, that's right."
Oh, yeah,
I think
on
that's what he's
Sliders.
talking about, yeah.
You mean Sliders?
I don't know. It's like he said, yes. Well, then do you remember?
No, I don't know which one.
Well,
there's so many.
It's the one where he would say something about the series.
Oh yeah. That was okay. I'll give you the short version. I'll try and give the short version. I was hired. I flew to New York and I met with the people on Animorphs at Scholastic, and they hired me to lay out all the outlines of the first season and write several scripts to set the tone of the show. And there was a week between when I met with them to audition for the job and when I would meet with them to lay out the entire season. And they sent me 15 of the books. So I had to read 15 of the Animorphs books and then lay out the entire season. And in the midst of that, my agent called and said there was an opening for a writer-producer on Sliders, and I should prepare a pitch for that for a few days hence. And I said, normally I could, but I can't do it. I can't work that up because I don't have the time. I've been hired by Animorphs. I have to, that's my first priority. He said, well, at least go in, at least take the meeting. So I wrote down, I'd only seen the pilot of Sliders, and this was the beginning of the 4th season. So I wrote down what the character names were so I wouldn't get them wrong. And I had things that I liked about the show and so forth. And but so I went into Universal and met with David Peckinpah, and I had heard a trick of how to get into rapport with people. And so I decided to try it. I dressed very well for the meeting. And the gag is whatever they say to you, you say back to them using different words. So for instance, he'd say, this season, we're not going to have a continuing villain every episode, but we're going to have these guys called the Cro-Mags that'll be over the entire season as a continuing threat. And I said, wow, that's great, because you don't have them every episode, but because you have them, you know, throughout the season, you can have them be kind of a constant, you know, villain throughout the entire season. He said, yes, yes, that's exactly right. And then he said something else, and I said it back to him using the same words. And within 10 minutes, he said, you know, I've got to meet with several other people, but I'm going to hire you. He said, I get a good feeling off you. And I said, okay, great. And then I left and flew back to New York and had my meeting on Animorphs. And then when I was in New York, my agent called and said, well, they're hiring you on Sliders. And so that's what happened. And, you know, but it was like, I never would have tried that trick if I didn't have nothing. You know, I had nothing. And I mean, to be fair, I did say I am the science fiction guy, and you'll need someone who really knows science fiction, because to tell what's being pitched that's a cliche versus what's being pitched that's fresh. And but it was a great season, and I loved working on the show. And ultimately, I was one way or another responsible for about 19 of those episodes, in terms of either outlining it or coming up with the idea or fixing it or doing a rewrite on it or whatever. And so my name is credited as producer on all of them of that season. And there's a lot of my writing that's credited, and a lot of my writing it's not, because I don't put my name on a freelancer's script, because that would take away half of his residuals, and I don't want to do that. So okay, cool. So Calvin Lee, are you there? Are you there, Calvin, to take your turn? Oh, Calvin, are you there? Oh no, Calvin Lee. Oh dear. Okay, well, if you come back, Calvin, you can have your turn. So
Well,
what?
Have you done your
What? My what?
that?
Mr. Sci-Fi?
Yeah.
Well, we could have another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David, in the interim.
Sure. Fit to be Read says, what did you like and dislike most about Independence Day?
It's a movie that a lot of people don't like, because the whole thing of a computer virus, like infecting a computer virus on an alien, you know, species, is like really ridiculous. But if you can swallow that, there were many, many things. It's one of our favorite movies. We watch it at least once a year. I love the fact that the black guy doesn't get killed, because in all the science fiction movies before that, the black guy dies, and Will Smith doesn't get killed. He's actually a romantic lead and a hero, and it's terrific. I like the fact that it has a Jewish guy as a lead. How many science fiction movies have a Jewish guy in the lead? Jeff Goldblum is overtly Jewish, and Judd Hirsch is great as his dad. They actually put an age makeup on Judd Hirsch. That's what he looks like now. and they have a great byplay. They have a lot of their lines are improvised. Same with Will Smith as well. A lot of his stuff with Jeff Goldblum is improvised. It's a funny movie. The casting is great.
They blow up a lot of stuff.
I just love the film. It's a great good time, you know. And the sequel was absolutely terrible, really terrible. But Independence Day is great. I love it. And so that's, you know, I don't have a lot of complaints about that movie. If you can go with where it goes, you're cool. I mean, the little girl's kind of, you know, a little she's not cute, and you know, and it's like, mommy's sleeping now. It's like, oh Jesus Christ, you know. But Mary McDonnell's great, as the vice president, you know, sort of a Hillary Clinton type, only nicer. And you know, so yeah, absolutely, it's a swell movie. I recommend it if you've never seen it. So now it's Elaine's turn. Wonderful, Elaine! Yay, go for it, Elaine.
Well, just as Marcus already opined, keeping very busy.
Yes.
Juggling an awful lot of projects, and as he said about the anti-war war movie,
Mm-hmm.
It's really, it feels very important for all of us who do have strong feelings about what is happening, not just in this country but worldwide, in terms of the average Joe, have an opportunity to have a bully pulpit, and to try and project clear messages. Because of the corporate media, a lot of people feel alone with their feelings, rather than knowing that most people would prefer to be kind.
Yes.
And so, and whereas they're busily, you know, dividing up everybody, not us, into victims or villains rather than people. So I'm feeling good about that. And also the fact that, you know, as they say, every good project isn't written, it's rewritten. The fact that in editing, you get to do that. And we've had a chance, working with David and with Dave and our DP, of being able to really, as we've continued through the process of being able to see certain scenes that we short shrifted that were key, of being able to go in and fix it.
Yes.
And so that's very exciting.
So life is great.
Life is great because you can always fix it. And I started in theater where you had the frustration of certain scenes being great one night and other scenes not being that great that night. You never had the perfect overall performance.
Yes.
But in film, hey, you just keep going back and polishing the sucker, and you can have something that is really satisfying. So,
great. So
good week.
Anything you need?
More visual effects people.
Yes.
Right, David? More
carpenters, set builders, all that stuff.
Just some more people to be filtered through David,
right.
but definitely special effects people with real skills.
Right. And
who are cheap.
Yes. So great. Yay, Elaine. 3 cheers, Elaine. Excellent, Elaine. So David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
Yeah, we've got here's a pretty interesting one. This is Scott Baker.
Hi, Scott.
Scott Baker says, also, by the way, Calvin Lee is having technical issues, so he's going to try and get it fixed for next week.
Okay. Great. You do that, Calvin. We look forward to it.
He does say, anyway, he thinks so far very cool. So
we try.
Baker says, Mr. Sci-Fi, have you seen the pitch preview made for The Star Lost with Keir Dullea and Douglas Trumbull?
I haven't seen the pitch preview, and I'd love to see it if someone wants to email it to markzickery@gmail.com. I saw the show, which was a disaster, of course. Harlan put his pseudonym, Cordwainer Bird, on it. For those who don't know what we're talking about, back in the 70s, the late 70s, there was, or maybe even the middle 70s, Harlan Ellison was one of the great writers of science fiction, wrote great episodes of The Outer Limits, and wrote City on the Edge of Forever for Star Trek, wrote tons of great short stories and essays and all sorts of stuff. He was one of my friends and mentors. And he created a show called The Star Lost, which took place on what's called a generation ship, where it's a spaceship going through space over a period of generations, and the people on the ship no longer remember that they're on a spaceship. And it was going to be cutting edge, but it was done in Canada, and they really screwed it up. And it starred Keir Dullea right after, a few years after 2001, and it was kind of a train wreck. So, so that's what happened. But it's a shame. It's really a shame. So, okay, great. So now I guess it's me, wonderful me. Yay! So first of all, here's one of the things I love about science fiction. A few weeks ago, David and I went to a showing at an auction house because they were about to auction off a phaser rifle from the second Star Trek pilot, Where No Man Has Gone Before. It only appeared in one episode. It's one of the most beautiful props ever made, and it sold for $300,000. And then I was at the convention the other day, and someone had made a really good replica of it, which I bought for significantly less. And here it is. Look at this thing. Wowee. And let me show you the cool part. Let's see. No, sorry, I won't scare the dogs. But look at, see, there's lights going on and all sorts of stuff. And there's a screen that lights up. It's just incredibly cool. So it's very, I think, whoops, don't mean to scare the dogs. But this is just really, really, really terrific. It's beautiful and I love it. And thank you.
That's a limited edition. That's not mass produced.
This was made by hand by one guy. Yeah, wow. This is just a guy who decided that he wanted one of these. And so he was selling a couple, one that had lights and noises and stuff, and the other that didn't. So I bought, and this also has a laser pointer, so you can actually aim it at stuff. It's just too cool for school. So I love it. I love it. And so in terms of, it's okay, Rudy. We'll deal with Rudy in a moment. Or just vaporize him. But in terms of us, yes, Space Command is moving along. It's going great. Thrilled to be reaching the end of the first 2 hours. We're going to be shooting the entire season. We've almost completed building an alien spaceship. We're building 2 8-foot-tall creatures. David, you and I have to talk about that. We had our conversation with Eric. Gosh, what else? We're building a hospital set to shoot, in January. We're for the next episode of Space Command. Stuff is just moving on, and it's very exciting. We've been talking to agents and managers that have been recommended to us by our friends J.J. Abrams and Guillermo del Toro and Mark Fergus and so forth. And so we'll see where it all lands. We're talking to Netflix and Amazon about the shows we're doing, and making friends and taking the world by storm. Elaine told me today that she'd like a new car, so we're going to get her a new car.
Not a new car.
A new used car.
A less used car
Yes.
than the used car I have.
Yes. We're thinking of getting her a Nash Metropolitan. But if you look that up, if you don't know what that is. But yes. And I've put down my $100 deposit on a solar car called the Aptera, which may or may not ever come into existence. But it was. But I would love a solar car. I would love that. And what else is going on? The second issue of the Space Command comics about to come out as soon as I finish writing the little introduction piece. And life is good.
Novel?
The novel? Which novel? Which one? Oh, the Space Command novel. Yes, I just put the names into it. The names that were suggested there were several backers who paid to have their name. Yeah, so that's done. So I'll send it to you, David, and to Inez, and Elaine's going to proofread it as well for certain things. And and so it just keeps going. Life is exciting. Am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so.
Well, one thing that's fun also is I reached out to Guillermo to see if I could go to one of the screenings of Nightmare Alley that he's going to be at, and he said he suggested he was saying go to the Writers Guild screening, and so I just got a first edition of the book Nightmare Alley for him to sign, and so that will be very, very cool. And I think I just watched the Tyrone Power version of Nightmare Alley, which is for free on YouTube. Just Google it. I mean, just go to YouTube and type in Nightmare Alley Tyrone Power. You can watch the entire movie. It's a really good movie. I've never seen it before, but I think Guillermo's going to do a really good job with it too, I think. So we shall see. And for those who don't know, I wrote a book with Guillermo del Toro. That's how I know him, and among other ways. But so I think that.
And you'll be doing the commentary on the Space Command DVD.
Elaine and I both will be doing that. So
you plural.
Yes, yes. Use that's use guys. Yeah.
Use twos.
Yeah, exactly. Brooklyn.
When you gonna be doing that?
Maybe later tonight. Who knows? And and David Bartlett, here's a question I have for you. That the shield, that structure from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., could that possibly be a hospital room? Would that even fit in our studio?
No.
It wouldn't fit in this.
I mean, it would fit technically, but there's nowhere to keep it, or I mean, it's not.
No, we
just built a hospital room. You want another one?
No, I'm just asking if that could be utilized for that purpose. It's just a question, So if not, it's okay. I'm just seeing how to utilize stuff. So okay, cool. So
it's supposed to be an isolation chamber on a spaceship. So
yeah,
like a prison.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yes. But see, you've seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I haven't, so I don't have a frame of reference. So at some point, I probably should watch a scene that shows that piece.
Spare bedroom could be someone's spare bedroom.
Yes, it could. So anything else for now?
Between Christmas and New Year's.
What, Carol? I'm sorry.
Be here between Christmas
Yes,
and New Year's.
we will. And yeah, it's going to be a great holiday season. I hope all of you stay safe, and we have and there's a lot of stuff coming out on Netflix and Amazon Prime. The new Leonardo DiCaprio movie where an asteroid's going to hit the Earth, and it's a satire of what we've all been living through. And so that should be pretty interesting. And West Side Story, of course, is out tonight, the new version where they sing and dance. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's about it for now. I think it's great to see all of you, particularly those from Comic-Con, and I'm really glad that you joined us, Angie, particularly because I thought you were great, and I think you definitely need to move out here. Absolutely. I mean, my God, Boston is your past, and LA is your future.
We've got a sky today full of liquid sunshine.
I'll tell you something wonderful about Los Angeles that you do not know. We live in West Hollywood, which has rent control. It's a wonderful town within the city. And years ago, a couple of parrots escaped a pet store and they bred. And so there are flocks of wild parrots who fly around our neighborhood and nest in the trees. And that's really great.
They're little
So,
green guys.
yeah, they're little green guys with red beaks.
So that
And
you can hear them a lot,
yes.
but you can't see them very well because they're little green guys in the trees.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, they don't speak English. It'd be lovely if you had a whole bunch of these birds going, "Hey, you down there, you, hey, fuck you," or whatever. But we don't get that. We don't get that. But it is still wonderful, and there are many wonders here in Los Angeles that you can enjoy. So, any final things? I think we've had another great evening as always. It's great to see all of you, and we're stronger by being together. So. So stay safe, stay well. We're here next week, and absolutely make sure you sign up for the table email. And thank you, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye. Take care. Thank you. Bye. Take care. Bye, guys. And bye, my Mr. Sci-Fi friends. Take care. We'll talk soon. Yay, we did it.